And we're back. It is episode 43 of What Could Have Been in Wrestling. This week we're actually going back to the 80s, and 1987 to be exact. And I want to thank a friend of mine, Ahmad, on YouTube as Jiu-Jitsu1565 for this topic. Before I get started, just want to say, Ahmad, like me, is a fellow Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. He's a very skilled black belt through AOJ. Only thing is, he prefers gi over no gi, so we all know that is points off. But again, and all jokes aside, thank you very much for this topic suggestion. And him and I both know Duke will win the national title this coming season as well. So let's get back on topic and let's talk about going back, I said, to 1987 and specifically WrestleMania 3. And what if Andre the Giant beat Hulk Hogan that year at WrestleMania? So now everyone knows that classic moment if you're a longtime watcher like myself, going back from the mid-90s, but still seeing that clip of Hulk Hogan body slamming Andre the Giant, and obviously winning that match and really being solidified as the biggest star in wrestling. From there, obviously, they had their rematch at Saturday Night's Main Event, where the twin referee angle was done with the Hebners, and Andre winning the title, and then, of course, handing it off to Ted DiBiase, and, of course, Hogan having that promo post-match asking how much was the plastic surgery, and really just trying to put it over the top how he had been screwed over and how he had been robbed of his belt. And then the tournament thereafter to declare a new champion going into WrestleMania 4. So how does all of that change if Andre the Giant is the winner and he becomes the champion? Well, first of all, again, like I said, even though I wasn't watching at that time, going back and hearing about the historical significance of that WrestleMania, who some longtime fans do still say that is still the best WrestleMania in history, it would have really changed the trajectory of Hogan's career and also one of Macho Man Randy Savage. Because if Andre wins, and say he wins it with the help of maybe Bobby Heenan, who he had aligned with at that time, Hogan would still be entitled to his rematch. So I know obviously when they had that contract signing, that's also, they had soon thereafter debuted the Winged Eagle belt for that WrestleMania. And if Andre walks out with it, I still think you have the rematch at Saturday Night's Main Event. At Saturday Night's Main Event, you might not actually do the twin referee angle like I talked about with the Hebners and the evil Dave Hebner counting the pin for Andre the Giant. And instead, and I know that this is still the most watched Saturday Night's Main Event of all time, Hogan would probably be the one who won it back from Andre then and there. So instead of having the big WrestleMania moment, you would have Hogan winning back the title from Andre at that Saturday Night's Main Event to send the fans home happy. And it's an historic moment because you get to see this Hogan reclaim his belt on cable TV. However, this would set up a challenger needed for Hogan. Now, if we go forward going into WrestleMania, and there would be no need for that WrestleMania tournament to crown a new champion, like I said, going into WrestleMania 4, which, for the Macho Man Randy Savage, was his big moment, beating guys like Greg the Hammer Valentine and others on his way to the finals and beating Ted DiBiase with an assist from Hogan and becoming the champion and start helping, obviously, move forward the birth of the Mega Powers. So instead, you could go back like they did the next year at WrestleMania 4. You could have Hogan and Andre go at it again and they had gone at it because Hogan was obviously also in the tournament, but he did not win it, obviously. Instead, there was the double countout between him and Andre. So Hogan instead is walking into that WrestleMania as champion post Saturday night's main event, and like I said, there's no need for that tournament. So there's not as much for the Macho Man Randy Savage to do because he's not in the main event picture, and they very well could have gone back to Hogan versus Andre. And instead of the double disqualification, that's probably where you would get possibly the historic moment of the body slam, if Andre's body could take it at that point. And then you have Hogan winning, so now he's up in the series. It's basically in their best of 3 matchups, 2-1 versus Andre, avenging the loss from WrestleMania 3, but also retaining his title and walking out of WrestleMania 4 as champion. So instead of, like I said, Macho Man shaking hands with Hogan and acknowledging that he helped him win the belt, and having Miss Elizabeth up on his shoulder with the belt in that final moment, it's Hogan celebrating. From there, I want to shift gears really quick and talk about where does that leave Macho Man. Because Macho Man, even though he's not quite Hogan, he's still one of the biggest stars in the history of wrestling, and he was another guy who was very responsible and gets a lot of credit for the 80s boom of wrestling in terms of it going worldwide and the popularity that professional wrestling experienced. So from there, if we go back to WrestleMania 3, he had that classic match with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, which they had charted out move for move, and they had rehearsed ad nauseum. From there, you could say, obviously, Savage could stay in the Intercontinental title picture because that was still the number 2 belt, and that at that time, it was the unspoken rule that the best worker in the company held the Intercontinental belt. Even though he wasn't the world champion, he was acknowledged as the best wrestler in the company, and that definitely could have been Macho Man at that time. So even though he would have been relegated to a degree, you could have put him in the mix with the guys like at that time. Even though the Dragon had left, you could have him still go ahead as a babyface now, facing off against the Honky Tonk Man. And you can have Savage reclaim the belt he had lost the year before and win the Intercontinental title, which would have changed the history of Honky Tonk Man's career, because until Gunther's reign, Honky Tonk Man had the claim as the longest reigning Intercontinental champion of all time, until he lost it to the Ultimate Warrior. So really, so much would have changed for Savage's career, where he might not have gotten elevated to that next level of main event status yet, becoming the world champion. Hogan would have, like I said, left WrestleMania 4 the WWF champion that night, in my opinion. And like I said, it would have changed the trajectory of Honky Tonk Man's career. Not winning the... not keeping the Intercontinental title, I should say, for as long as he did, and not losing it to the Warrior at that SummerSlam, I believe in 1989. So really, it would have really affected a lot of different careers. And going back to it, for Macho Man and Hogan, you might have still had the birth of the Mega Powers, especially if they're holding the top 2 belts in the company. Well, the only 2 singles belts at the company at that time. It wasn't like wrestling today, where you have a company like AEW with their 37 belts. Or the WWE, for that matter, with their 55 belts as well. But instead, you would still have the 2 top stars of the industry going at it. Partnering up in their alliance as the Mega Powers. And you can still probably move forward to SummerSlam of 1989, where it's Ted DiBiase and Andre the Giant in that tag match taking on Hogan and Savage, with Hogan and Savage being victorious after Hogan pinned the $1 Million Man. However, it would have had a different twist, because if we now move forward to 1990 and WrestleMania 5, if anyone remembers, the tagline for that was Mega Powers Explode. And the feud with that was obviously Savage turning on Hulk Hogan at that Saturday night's main event and saying that he saw lust in his eyes and attacking him backstage while he was attending to the injuries of Elizabeth and hitting him with the belt. From there, Savage went on to face Hogan at WrestleMania 5, and Savage had then made a heel turn and walked in as champion. And again, after Hulk Hogan kicked out of the flying elbow drop, he hulked up, did his traditional comeback, and of course he got the win over Savage. And Hogan reclaimed the WWF title, and Savage obviously went on to do his Macho King angle and align with Sensational Sherry thereafter. So that could actually change, where even if you do have the Mega Powers come together, they could still have their breakup, and it could instead be Macho being jealous of Hogan, because even though he likes being the Intercontinental Champion, he wants to have that next step in his career, and he wants the world title. And it could be, in a way, WrestleMania 6 a year early, where when Hogan faced the Warrior, Warrior was Intercontinental Champion, Hogan was WWF Champion, and the match was champion versus champion, title for title. And that's what it could be here. The Intercontinental Champion, Macho Man Randy Savage, having still made his heel turn against the WWF Champion Hulk Hogan. And in that match, obviously, it could still play out the same way, but this time, Randy Savage, even if you have Hulk Hogan no sell or kick out of the leg drop and Hulk up, you can still have it where Hulk Hogan, much like in WrestleMania 6, misses the leg drop. It could be where he hurts his leg. Savage takes advantage of it, maybe chop blocks his knee, and then goes up one more time and hits a second flying elbow. And this time Hogan is too injured to kick out. And at WrestleMania 5, it actually ends with the heel Macho Man Randy Savage becoming the top guy for the first time in his career and having his WWF title win come a year later than it actually did, and celebrating with both belts, as he is, again, would be walking in as Intercontinental Champion. So again, the heel winning at WrestleMania was not common for that time. It's not like, like when Triple H won it in 2000 as the heel, the first heel ever to walk out of the WrestleMania still champion, or like Roman Reigns, obviously, with his constant title successful defenses when he was aligned with Paul Heyman in the Bloodline. So it could have definitely made history, and it definitely would have changed the trajectory of a lot of careers, and basically where a lot of storylines could have gone. Some things would have stayed the same, but just in terms of, especially like I said, how it would have affected Honky's Intercontinental title reign before, and how it would have really changed and shaped Macho's career, still becoming a top guy, but in a different way, really could have impacted a lot of, basically a lot of pay-per-views and a lot of people going forward. But that's my take on it. Again, I wasn't watching wrestling at that time, but I obviously, like I said, I went back and I have seen WrestleMania 3, WrestleMania 4, and 5, and that's just how I think it would have shook down, and how things still would have worked out for basically all parties involved, where Hogan would have gotten his wins back over Andre at Saturday night's main event, even though we wouldn't have had that like historic Hebner and Hebner angle, and also a win at WrestleMania 4, only for Macho to reclaim his Intercontinental belt a year later after WrestleMania 3, but then finally reach the pinnacle of his career at WrestleMania 5. So let me know what you guys think down below. I would love to hear people's comments about this, because this is such a big topic, and this was such an historic moment in terms of wrestling and WWF history, that I want to hear what people think could have happened and how it could have changed really the course of wrestling overall. So thank you, Ahmad, again for this topic suggestion. Really appreciate your input and obviously your comment on this. Leave your comments down below, like I said. I really appreciate all the topic suggestions I've been getting from new and current subscribers alike, and I definitely want to get to all of them, and I promise to be more attentive and actually try to post more consistently. Apologies for my delay. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I'll be back again soon with another topic of what could have been in wrestling. So, thank you all again, and take care, guys.